All right. Hey, everyone, and welcome back. So today we're going to be looking at this variable resistor simulation applet. It's from that Open Educational Resources open source physics website out of Singapore, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
And, a variable resistor, for those who don't know, is basically, it's like the volume knob on your speaker. It controls how much power is flowing
Yeah.
through a circuit. And this simulation lets you play with a virtual one, which I think is,
Yeah.
probably a little more fun than just reading about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's way more engaging, and it really highlights this shift we're seeing in education, towards these more interactive, hands-on ways of learning about even these kind of complex ideas. A variable resistor, also known as a rheostat, might sound a little intimidating at first, but when you have a tool like this, it makes it so much easier to grasp.
Yeah, absolutely. So in this simulation, we basically have a variable resistor that's hooked up to a circuit with a light bulb. And the really neat thing is you can actually drag this little slider on the resistor to change the resistance. And then you see the current change on the ammeter.
Yeah.
And the bulb's brightness changes as well.
Yeah. You can see that cause and effect relationship so clearly. And they even have these 3 different views you can choose from. You have the world view, the diagram view, and then there's this special view.
Okay, so the world view, I'm guessing that's probably showing us like the circuit as it would look in real life, right?
Yeah.
Like with wires and everything.
Exactly. It gives you that more realistic representation.
Then the diagram view, I'm guessing that's more like a simplified schematic, like what you might see, in a textbook.
Right. More of a symbolic representation.
But this special view, this is what has me intrigued. What's so special about it?
Well, the special view is really interesting because it actually visualizes the energy flow within the circuit. So you can actually see like the electrons moving through the wires and how that movement is affected when you change the resistance. It's really cool. It gives you a much deeper understanding of that concept of energy transfer.
Oh, wow. I'm picturing like little animated electrons like zipping around. That's so much cooler than just seeing a static diagram. I bet that really helps solidify the understanding of what's actually happening inside the circuit.
Yeah, for sure. And the fact that they offer these multiple perspectives is really what makes the simulation such a powerful learning tool.
Yeah.
Because some people they might prefer that worldview, that realistic look. Others they might find the schematic diagram view more helpful, and then you have the special view for those who really want to dive into those deeper concepts. So it really does cater to different learning styles, which is great.
Yeah. That is really cool. And besides those different views and, that drag and drop interactivity, are there any other features that this simulation has that, make it even more engaging? Any cool little details?
Oh yeah, definitely. There are it has a dimmer which allows you to control the bulb's brightness even further. And then they also have a reset button, so if you want to,
Yeah.
start over from scratch, you can easily do that. So, yeah, they really encourage you to play around and experiment and see what happens when you tweak different things.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. It definitely sounds like there are some interesting things to discover there.
For sure.
It's like they really want you to experiment and see what happens when you tweak things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about fostering that sense of play and exploration, which is so crucial for learning, But speaking of exploring, let's maybe dive a little deeper into the core concept here. Yeah. Which is that relationship between resistance, current, and brightness. That's really where it gets fascinating.
Okay, so how does all of that work? Is it pretty straightforward, or are there any quirks to it?
Well, a good way to think about it is like a water pipe. Imagine you have a water pipe, and the resistance in the circuit, that's like the width of the pipe. So if you have a narrow pipe, that means there's high resistance, and less water can flow through. And in our circuit, that water flow, that represents the current.
Okay, so high resistance is like a bottleneck, basically, slowing down the flow of electricity.
Exactly.
And that would make the bulb dimmer, right?
Yeah, precisely. Less current means a dimmer bulb.
Got it.
And just like with a water pipe, if you widen it, meaning you lower the resistance, more water can flow through, which translates to a higher current.
Yeah.
And a brighter bulb.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like when you're drinking a milkshake with a bigger straw, you can get more through faster. So is voltage like the force that's pushing the water through the pipe?
Yeah, that's a great analogy. You can think of voltage as the pressure in that water pipe system. So higher voltage means more pressure pushing that water or the electrons in our circuit.
Yeah.
through the pipe, so the brightness of the bulb, it's really determined by that interplay of voltage, current, and resistance.
So it's not just about resistance on its own. It's the combination of all three that determines how much power is being delivered to the bulb.
Exactly.
Wow, this is making me realize that this little variable resistor is kind of a big deal. It's not just some abstract concept in a textbook, you
Yeah.
know. We actually use this stuff all the time without even thinking about it.
Oh, absolutely. It's everywhere. Speaking of real-world applications, have you ever noticed how some dimmer switches, like they make this buzzing sound?
Uh, yeah, now that you mention it, some of them do. Especially like the older ones. It's kind of annoying actually. Is that because of the resistance changing?
It can be, yeah. That buzzing sound you hear. It's often due to the way those older dimmer switches are designed. They use a component called a variable resistor or a rheostat
Mhm.
to control the amount of electricity flowing to the light bulb. And sometimes those rapid changes in resistance, they can create that buzzing sound as the current flows through the circuit.
So those dimmer switches are basically using the same principle as this simulation. That's pretty cool. I'm starting to see these concepts everywhere now.
Right. It's amazing how many everyday devices rely on this simple concept of variable resistance. And it goes way beyond dimmer switches, too. Think about, like, the volume knob on your headphones.
Yeah.
You're adjusting the resistance there to control the flow of electrical signals, which changes the loudness of the sound.
Oh, that's right. Or even like fan speed controllers. More resistance means a slower fan, less resistance, and it spins faster. It's the same principle at work, just applied in different ways.
Exactly. And the simulation does such a fantastic job of bridging that gap
Hmm.
between the theoretical concept
Yeah.
and its practical applications.
Hmm.
It helps you see those connections and understand how this tiny component plays such a significant role in our daily lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of wrap things up here, we've had a really great deep dive into this variable resistor simulation. We've explored the different views it offers, the interactive features, and we even dove into that fascinating relationship between resistance, current, and brightness.
Yeah, and we even connected it to those real-world examples that you encounter every day, from
Yeah.
dimmer switches to volume knobs to fan speed controllers.
Yeah, it's amazing how something seemingly so simple can have such a
Yeah.
widespread impact. You know, this simulation really makes you appreciate the power of variable resistance and and its role in shaping our technological world. It really does. It really makes you think about all the things we use that have this going on. This has been a really insightful deep dive. I've learned a lot, and I think it's all thanks to you and your expertise.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. I always enjoy talking about this stuff. And, before we wrap up, I have a little challenge for you. As you explore this simulation, and I highly recommend you do, the link is right there in the source material. I want you to think about this. What other real-world applications of variable resistors can you find?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm already thinking about all sorts of things now. Like what about the touch screen on my phone? Does that use variable resistance somehow?
Hmm. You know what? You might be onto something there. Some touchscreen technologies. They do utilize variable resistance to detect the position of your finger on the screen. It's all about how the electrical resistance changes when you press on the screen.
Wow, I never would have guessed that. See, this is what I love about these deep dives. They make you look at the world around you in a whole new way.
Absolutely. That's the beauty of learning, isn't it? It opens up your mind to new possibilities and makes you curious about the workings of things that you might have taken for granted before.
Well said. So, to everyone listening, I hope you found this deep dive as fascinating as I did. We've learned about variable resistors, how they work and how they're used in all sorts of cool applications.
Yeah. And we explored different ways to visualize those concepts and even challenged you to find even more examples of variable resistors in your own life.
So yeah, while you're at it, check out some of the other simulations on that open source physics website from Singapore. They've got a ton of great resources that can help you learn about all kinds of scientific concepts.
Keep that curiosity alive
Yeah.
and never stop exploring.
And on that note, we'll see you next time.